Old Man Tiberius was not his real name. It was just what the neighborhood kids called the elderly gentleman who lived on the corner. He was a quiet, stoop-shouldered man, with eyes the color of faded denim, and a silence that seemed to precede him. The only thing louder than his silence was his garden. It wasn't a neat, manicured affair. Tiberius's garden was a wild, wonderful tangle, a riot of life that sprawled over his small patch of earth like a velvet shawl thrown carelessly over a chair. Towering sunflowers leaned against the wooden fence, their massive heads perpetually nodding in agreement with the breeze. Beneath them, zucchini plants with leaves like elephant ears elbowed aside shy patches of wild mint. Everyone in town saw the abundance, the impossible yield of the old man's plot, but no one knew its secret. The secret was simple. Old Man Tiberius didn't tend the garden. He listened to it. Every morning, before the dew had fully evaporated, he would sit on a cracked stone bench, his hands resting on his knees. He wouldn't prune or weed immediately. Instead, he would close his eyes and breathe, his silence a deep well into which the garden's murmurings could fall. The garden spoke, you see, but not in words. The roses whispered of the sun, demanding more light for their deep crimson petals. The carrots complained, a low grumble in the soil, that their neighbors, the weeds, were hogging all the water. The tomato vines were the most dramatic, sighing deeply when a storm approached, terrified their plump green fruit would be bruised. Tiberius listened to the needs. He knew exactly which spot to thin for the lettuce, not by looking, but because the lettuce sounded crowded. He knew which apple tree needed a careful, encouraging word and a dose of compost tea to produce sweeter fruit. One summer, a young girl named Clara moved in next door. She was an inquisitive child, perpetually stained with grass and dirt. She watched Tiberius for weeks, utterly confused.
"Mr. Tiberius," she finally asked, leaning against the fence one afternoon, "why do you just sit there? My mom says a garden needs work."
It does, child. But how can you help someone if you don't know what they truly need? You might give a thirsty man a blanket and a cold man a glass of water. It won't help. This little one was telling me it needed a friend to eat it. A garden is not a machine, Clara. It is a community. And the first rule of community is to listen.
From that day on, Clara didn't just see a messy old man in a wild garden. She saw a quiet conversation taking place. She started sitting on her side of the fence, listening to the buzz of the bees, the rustle of the leaves, and the subtle, earthy symphony of growth. She started her own small, messy garden, and while she didn't hear words, she began to feel the feeling of what the plants needed. And Tiberius's garden, sensing it finally had another listener, seemed to grow even more vibrant, its colors deeper, its scents sweeter, happy to share its secret life with the world.